topic is Yuri Lutsenko's 10 billion. How much money has been actually prosecutor's office returned to budget in 2016? Viktor Chumak, MP of Ukraine, Daria Kalinyuk, Executive Director of the Anti-Corruption Action Center, and Andriy Shalaysky, Chief Editor of the website Nasha Groshi. So, in several months, we discussed these issues, and some part of our working time was spent in order to check these packages of documents from Prosecutor's General Office. And I would like to tell you about this verification. I'm sorry that these are just printed materials. First, we found the court decisions in electronic form. Then we looked for the implementation of the decisions or cancellation or appeal against this decision. And many of them are unique, and the main is to find out whether the state and people returned this money due to prosecutors. And Viktor Vasilievich, we ask you to tell us how it all started, and I will tell you in what it resulted in. So this is an interesting matter. It started at the beginning of this year in January. General Prosecutor Office provided
information that on the claim of Prosecutor's Office, 15.5 billion were provided to the state, and they prevented losses for more than 2 billion hryvnias. And Yuri Vitalyevich Lutsenko said that this is real money, and the confirmation is this document. He said that this is money that was provided to the state, and this is more than 10 billion, and that they really were active in returning this money. But when billions are returned to the state, there should be a meeting of the Supreme Council, and I addressed financial institutions of the state and asked them whether they have this money. I addressed the state treasury and to provide an information where this money came, and the state Treasury and the Ministry of Finance didn't have this information. They were not able to provide it. They said that they do not have this data. There is no such information, they said. So then I addressed directly to Prosecutor General, and I addressed him and asked to inform and to provide. I asked to provide the number of court decisions adopted and the documents that confirm that 5.5 billion were returned to the state, the practical implementation, and the numbers of court decision, of cancellation of decisions. And I asked not for the printed materials. I asked to provide it in electronic form. And I got the answer from the prosecutor's office. This answer was interesting. It is signed by Strazhevska, the deputy of Lutsenko, and they say about these cases and the collection of information about these cases and the numbers of court decisions. It all takes a lot of time, and you can find information in the single registry of court decisions. So they said, go and collect information, we won't do anything for you. So I said, if you don't want, what can we do? So I just wanted to find out what was going on. And at the press conference with Prosecutors General, I got information that I am People's Deputy Viktor Chumak, that I doubted these decisions and all real money for the benefit of the state, and that I got these decisions on paper that will be provided to me by the Prosecutors General. So this performance was made in the walls of Supreme Council, and Larissa Sargan, together with her aides, she got 51 packages of documents, because there were 51 cases, and they brought it and put it near my study. Fortunately, no one was there, so people, they just made some physical exercises. They brought these 10 packages to the third floor, and then they brought it to the lower floor, and then they asked where you are, and I said, I am a People's Deputy, so I work in different places. So they were really concerned that I am not in the building, and they wanted me to accept these documents, and I was not, it was really difficult to read all these documents, but there are people who said, we will count everything, just provide this information to us. And I provided all these materials to Nashi Groshi project, and during 3 months they deal with this case, and today they will tell you about what money is real, what money is not real, and whether the words of the Prosecutors General are correct. And I give the floor to Alexei. It is difficult to be brief here, because there are many stories we can tell you about. Half an hour for story, maybe. They are all interesting. First, I will start with the first story. While analyzing the documents, we used common sense, whether something was returned to the state. And one of the biggest story in this case is the conflict between Naftogaz and Kyivenergo companies. And we understand that Teplokоммунэнерго, many of them, they do not pay because the state doesn't pay. So Kyivenergo owed 2 billion, and this debt for Kyivenergo were even more. And then the prosecutors come and they say that we want to file to the court, and the court rejects this, because this is not the matter of General Prosecutor's Office. This is the matter between two economic entities. So they go to the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal also rejects this. And then they go higher, and then they say that Naftogaz influences the whole state. Let's allow them to have a court hearing. They go to the first instance, and 2 billion have been already provided. And they said, we provided 2 billion, but we calculated fines for billions. So they continue the case, because there are percentage, and we so some money was returned. But if prosecutor's office didn't intervene, then Naftogaz would get this money with the help of their own lawyers. They are able to do that on their own. So the prosecutors come to the local council and says they do not pay rent, let's go to court. And they say, oh, we will file on our own. And they say, and the prosecutor's office intervene and win the case and then report. We count this 700 million. We were loyal to the General Prosecutor's Office, and the final figure, what we got, even with this loyal position, we have press releases. We have 3.8 billion. So the main problem is not to whether we should confirm or not to confirm some things. We wanted to understand what, in the opinion of General Prosecutor's Office, is the returning of this money. If, for example, the court decision provided the information that $100,000 were returned, maybe we would understand. But what, in the opinion of General Prosecutor, Prosecutor General, is the returning of this money? And we cannot accumulate this 10 billion, only 9.6 billion may be calculated. If it would be NGO, they would never win any grant. So the first, what we did, we recalculated and tried to confirm the information. Then we tried to systemize in what way prosecutor's office create such sums. The first is when the state return to the state. So two state enterprises go to court and prosecutor's office participate, and someone owes someone, and we provided from one enterprise to another. And the prosecutor's office calculate this money, and they just provide money from one enterprise, state enterprise, to another. So no money is additional money provided to the state. So also the rent, they calculate the price of land. For example, local council leased a piece of a land plot to an entrepreneur who pays rent, and for example he didn't pay for 3 months, and then prosecutor's office they say to the local council that they can breach this contract and want to file to the court, and then they go to the court and breach this contract, but they could do it outside court, and then 30,000 hryvnias, and the prosecutor's office say that they provided not 30,000 but 1 million. But this plot of land was communal, and it is still communal. So this is the scheme that is most popular in this case. Then they force, when they force local government to take something on their balance. We may provide more detailed information on this. When the prosecutor's office say that take irrigation system on the budget, and they say that balance book value is 760,000, and the court
they oblige the council to take this irrigation system on the budget or include them in the asset list. The local council, they do not want to have it included in the asset list, but the prosecutor's office say that they provided some money to the state, but actually they created loss because local councils now have to maintain, for example, the irrigation system of the buildings that were included in the asset list. And also clearance, offsetting of debts. The enterprises dispute, and then there are some settlements between enterprises. So the money go back and forth because there is offsetting between enterprises, and the prosecutor's office say that they returned money to the state. And when we started to look through these cases, and Elena Sherpinska and Elena Strazhak helped us with these documents, and you can ask them about these documents, and the first decision was like this. A student wasn't paid his stipend for 3 months, but they had to pay, and the prosecutor's office filed the case to court, and he was paid. And why do you speak about these scholarships for students? And but Lusonka said that returning of the money to the state and the returning of money to the citizens, and I said, in this case, prosecutor's office did everything in order to get 3 scholarships. Maybe this is minus from the state, not the plus. And there are many things when these are citizens, not the state budget, not the land. And there are many things, many court hearings. Well, I don't understand why prosecutor's office is there when every city council, they have legal departments, they always have court hearings, and they deal with these issues, and the prosecutor's office, they just interfere there and they put some pluses to themselves. And look at tax debts. If we use logic, for example, if I am fiscal service and someone owes me, and I file to the court, and if they cannot pay, I file in order that the enterprise declare bankruptcy. We calculated even these cases when from commercial structure some money went to the state. But this is not the case for prosecutor's office. This can be done by different organizations and entities. And there are such things. For example, there was a tender, a state procurement tender, and prosecutor saw that the conditions of the tender were wrong. For example, you said that there will be 100% prepay. Let's cancel this point about 100% prepay, and through the court they cancel this, and then tender is held. But the prosecutor's office, they say that they did this, but only one paragraph was cancelled. And there are such cases when there is one more. One more important aspect. No, so there are many
but minor important aspects. So, speaking on the whole, we may tell you a lot of stories like this, but there are three main problems with these packages. First, that the money is returned from the budget to the budget, and prosecutors believe that they return money to the state. And also, because there is normative assessment of land, they and the third one is that the prosecutor's office joined the court hearings that when they are not needed, and we believe that they interfere there in order to have their planned in order to have the plan proceeds. So there were some decisions cancelled the same year. For example, in March, prosecutor's office won. Then there was appeal against this, and we calculated everything that is now in cassation or in appeal. So we don't know in what it all will result. So maybe we do not know something, but we did this work. If we look at all the court hearings, there were 5,600 court decisions, and we may say that there is no real system how to calculate the expenditures and losses in the activity of prosecutor's office. And such serious organization works check organization, and they took all the information that prosecutor's office provide on its side, and it is interesting to read about it. They do not understand what these figures mean, and I tried to calm them down. I said that these figures they do not mean anything at all. And one more important aspect: how they calculate losses of the state budget. They, at the General Prosecutor's Office, they have the special instruction. We may provide it to you. It is created in order to show maximum figures, and especially in this normative assessment of land is included. And what we want to find out, how these papers were created, because the system works like this. There are prosecutors in different remote regions. They have this electronic system, and they introduce the data in the system. We do not know whether they verify this data, and it all goes somewhere, and it is all in electronic format. And for example, in Prosecutor's General Office, they got this information. And for example, MP Chumak wants to get this information. So maybe there is a person who print all this, but there is no logic in this, because some cases printed several times. So, or some prosecutors at the local level should send it by Nova Posta. So we do not know the logic, and we do not understand how they carry out fact checking. We found one case when the prosecutor wrote that it is not confirmed. Here is another figure. So something was written in the documents in handwriting, but this is a unique case.
does someone verify what these prosecutors bring to the state? In each case, we are ready for professional discussions with prosecutors of any level. And we have press releases and this packages of documents, and we have Excel table where each decision is taken into account with all the necessary references, and we can speak about any of these decisions. And I'm completely sure that Yuri Lutsenko do not know how this is formed. He is not to blame in the system because it worked throughout the years, and it will work. And sometimes the system provides minuses to Prosecutor General because the day before yesterday he said that they returned the building of military hospital in Dnipropetrovsk, but maybe they didn't add something to these documents, and in order to develop, Prosecutor General should understand what he has. So there is no database. This is these are just some packs for Shredder. So now I give the floor to my colleague.
I will start with questions. How much money have been recovered as a result of sentences, court sentences? This figure at the website of General Prosecutor's Office is 50,000 hryvnias. It is very little money. When these cases were brought, I thought they are money of some oligarchs, but they are scholarships. I was shocked. I asked because there are international legal standards regulating recovery of assets in the law enforcement system. The standards say that there are money of unlawful origin, and if prosecutor's office proved in court that this money are illegally gained, then they should be recovered. In Ukraine, these funds are either not recovered or they are recovered in very small amounts, such as thousands of hryvnias, and we expect the stolen assets to be returned to the state of Ukraine. There are proceedings, legal proceedings against in drug cases, and also in corruption cases, and there should be sentences, and those stolen money, and some villas and buildings which have been built from criminal proceeds, they should be recovered to the state. They should be seized. All these files which you see now on the table, they are nothing. This is a PR show just to shock someone with the so-called big amount of work, large activities conducted by the prosecutors' offices. The general prosecutor told about 50 billion hryvnias. Money are in question. The bonds on the offshore accounts of allegedly Yanukovych-owned companies. Yesterday, the MPs from Narodny Front and Poroshenko's bloc, they applauded when the general prosecutor presented his report, but nobody knows from where this $1.5 billion were obtained, where those companies got this money from, who are beneficiaries of those companies, who nobody knows real names of those companies. It is nonsense. The judgment, court judgment to recover 1.5 billion. This judgment, our General Prosecutor Lutsenko wants to become confidential. He said, answering my question, that he wants this judgment to be confidential. For any students, journalist student, means that this seizure will be appealed against because the decision is secret. This judgment will be appealed against, will be protested again either in Ukrainian or foreign courts, and this money will be returned back to Yanukovych. This is not the victory, this is legalization of the incomes of Yanukovych partners. This is not the first case. This scheme has already been invented, how to close criminal proceedings against Yanukovych loyalties. In Zlochevsky case, $23 million were arrested in Great Britain, and in 2015 the seizure was lifted because the prosecutor's office has not provided proofs to Great Britain's colleagues. Zlochevsky said that 23 millions were paid for crude oil by Kurchenko. The facts were not interesting for our prosecutor's office. This British law enforcement system was shocked. They paid a huge fine to Zlochevsky for the allegedly arrested unlawfully this money, but they continue their investigation, and they hope that Prosecutor Lutsenko will help them to finalize this case and to return this money. They hope that Lutsenko is not the corrupt prosecutor, but Zlochevsky disappeared from the case. Some accountant was named as the defendant instead of owner Zlochevsky, and she is allowed to pay some symbolic losses to the state. This is the scheme to pay symbolic amount, dozens millions of hryvnias for Zlochevsky. This means just 5 kopecks in return, in exchange of canceling any charges. So Mr. Zlochevsky continues to produce gas and oil and other minerals. Great Britain is shocked. like most foreign prosecutors' offices, they don't understand why they can't receive proofs of unlawfulness of gained assets. And the prosecutor reported yesterday that he recovered the money from Zlochevsky. And yesterday, Lutsenko said that if you want to have such a house as Mr. Kluyev has, just pay your taxes. Evasion of taxes allows you to pay some amount of taxes on your stolen building or villa and to sleep calm. He said that there is a good subject for negotiating your calm life. General prosecutor can't negotiate closing of cases and requalifying the cases from, for example, murder to some petty crime. When we had General Prosecutor Shokin, we understood what is black and what is white. And these days, the failure is demonstrated as the victory. Please, Mr. Prosecutor, my message is stop cheating the people. And I have the subject for Yuri Lutsenko. Please come to your senses. Ukrainians have been robbed via banking sector. Billions of dollars have been siphoned off Ukraine after the revolution of dignity by the owners of bankrupt banks. For example, Mr. Bakhmatyuk, Finance and Credit Bank. I can demonstrate you the schemes according to the reports, last year reports, and there is the legal approach method, how to return money to those depositors who lost their deposits. So the prosecutor's office should work with those cheated depositors, bank clients. Fake loans have been provided to fake companies. Here, the General Prosecutor's Office could have recovered billions of dollars. Meanwhile, these 200,000 hryvnias of guaranteed amounts, they are returned by each of us. Every taxpayer pays taxes to the budget, and these guaranteed amounts are paid out to cheated depositors. The irrigation system, they can return, and billions which were siphoned off the banks, they can't return them. And to finalize, the situation with the register of seized property should be improved. The agency chaired by Mr. Yanchuk is responsible, and we hope that this year this register will prevent our waste of efforts looking through these files which you see on the table. I also was surprised yesterday when Mr. Lutsenko said that just pay your taxes and sleep in peace. In principle, if we analyze the latest developments, we can understand this message. The draft law 6220 give the opportunity, provided the opportunity to any state body to institute claims, and if it is closed by court, nobody was allowed to reinstitute it. So security service and anti-corruption agencies, they were not allowed to reinstitute proceedings. I understand the message of Mr. Lutsenko when crimes are qualified evasion of taxes is punished not by not by some real punishments. So all people who have illegal assets, they will be safe just thanks to prosecutor's office efforts. The final aspect, we have been considering the activities of General Prosecutor's Office. We have law enforcement officers, our friends. When we told them what we are doing, we asked them, do you know how money are counted? They said that they knew. They understood that there is a window dressing methods in the prosecutor's office. The sense of our activities is not in demonstrating the problem, but in demonstrating solution to this problem. If you have questions, you are welcome. I have question 1+1 TV channel. Your thorough efforts of Nashi, of our money NGO, really is worth respect. Yesterday's special operation of General Prosecutor's Office joined with Law Enforcement Office on what do you think of this special operation? Well, there is some plus in this operation. Some top-level officials became frightened, but judges have not received from prosecutor's office enough facts in order to jail those corrupt officials. They were let go. This is normal step because some other obligations they have under the law. It is quite surprising that this operation was conducted, operation on arrest of top-level officials happened after 3 years. This looks surprising. If prosecutor's office would provide some proofs, some facts, so that these top-level officials are really sentenced, then we will say this is good job. In principle, I can't stand from applauses. Either 15 or 25 top-level officials have, when they are in jailed or arrested for abuse of power, I really am happy, but of course there are corruption cases, and the cases could fail in courts because of the lack of evidence, but the situation is in the framework of law for economic crimes and corruption crimes. Such prevention actions as arrest is not obligatory. So if we strengthen liability or preventive actions, even because we do not like corruption, our European partners would not understand our actions. Strengthening and taking more strict laws is good. The other message yesterday was surprising for me. It was about agents undercover. The agent undercover was Mr. Nasirov, who chaired our National Tax Service, who revealed all the platforms of tax proceeds siphoning. All oligarchs, they used those schemes. They paid 12, 15 or 20% for converting money from cashless form into cash. But everything was under protection cover of the agent of military prosecutor's office, Mr. Nasirov, who used to be the head of the tax service of Ukraine. The National Anti-Corruption Bureau and National Anti-Corruption Agency, they charged him, but absolutely the other body, which has no powers and has no jurisdiction on economic crimes and fiscal crimes and corruption cases. Yes, General Prosecutor's Office has nothing to do with this. This is easily can be read in Article 216, which defines jurisdiction of the General Prosecutor's Office. This whitening of Mr. Nasirov's image frightens me. How this network, which worked 3 years ago, this scheme of converting cashless assets into cash, this almost military operation took place on the day of publication of General Prosecutor's report in the Verkhovna Rada. Yesterday we had fantastic day. The General Prosecutor reported how successfully he works. 25 persons were detained. General Prosecutor's Office instituted proceedings against the Deputy Chief of National Anti-Corruption Agency, and National Anti-Corruption Agency instituted proceedings against the General Prosecutor's Office, but we do not see real results so far. Are there any other questions? Have you asked the General Prosecutor who in Ukraine protects gambling organizations, and what are the proceeds, national budget proceeds from gambling? The rule of thumb in the General Prosecutor's Office, it says not to beat themselves. Gambling is under the cover of the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Even District Prosecutor's Office can't control gambling business. They need staff for this. Prosecutors can just by themselves.
So in a month we will have one more press conference, and we will tell you about the scandalous investigations connected with Bachkovsky and others, and the situation is even sadder than in these cases. And law enforcement bodies, for them it is easy to hide their inactivity with their secrecy. They say, and I believe that this cases concerning gambling, that they are open, but we hope that this is just a complicated case that needs long investigation, and there are no limitation for how many years it can last, so maybe they will have it for many years. Maybe recently we will provide information about financial cover and about losses, huge losses made by banks, and also there are some financial institutions that also brings losses, and these financial institutions do not have status of bank, and the guarantee fund does not cover this to the clients, and there are several cases on this, and some prosecutors ask us to help them investigation to bring this case to court, because they are not allowed by the top officials to bring these cases to the court, and we would like to make these cases public. So we have good prosecutors. I have a question to all three of the speakers. Andrei Hamadze, journalist, I know that you are really good officer, and if Prosecutor General said about Nasirov, maybe there should be more transparency in the case. And you know that the military prosecutor general made some comments on case of Nasirov, and can it have some legal consequences? Whether it is a disclosure of secret information of investigation or some other issues concerning Nasirov's case, and also anti-corruption center. A question to you. You said about Bakhmatyuk. Why didn't say about Gontareva, who brought all the banking system to such a situation, and why Prosecutor General didn't work in this direction? And the question to the editor, whether you calculated the possible proceeds to the state budget, not based on the materials you were provided, but for example, if we take Yanukovych case, also Diamond case, Amber case, so those materials, coal that is illegally brought, so can it be calculated? Concerning Matias and Nasirov, the situation is like this. So, so this is the part of the secret. We cannot disclose such data. And if Matias started to speak, it means that he has some grounds for this. But maybe this is not against Nasirov, but maybe this is for Nasirov. And imagine if Nasirov is sentenced and the court convicted him based on the investigation of NABU. Imagine the situation. So Nasirov maybe put his own conditions. So I say like this, and you cover that I cooperated with investigation. I provided information that was important to return big sums of money to the state, and then the court takes decision or close the case because of lack of evidence, maybe of lack of some materials, and maybe positive decision. So maybe this is a very important person for Poroshenko, and he doesn't want this person to go to prison. So maybe this is why this is the attempt to support Nasirov. So we wanted to calculate this, then we decided that this is harmful. It's like the gold of Polubotko, no one will find it. So our main idea is that prosecutor's office, the main is for them should be the truth, the fairness, and they should bring people to justice. Then they will have proceeds to the budget, and those packages of documents, they are not about justice. Before answering your question, I would like to sum up what Oleg said. We at our center, we believe that it is really good that this packages of documents went to you, and we would have other methodology, and we would say that they returned zero from out of this 10 billion, because we are lawyers, and we would calculate only the money that was returned by court decisions. So our expert opinion, we believe that here there is zero proceeds to the budget from these cases. So about Gontareva, we worked on this issue, and in 2014, we, a long time ago, we sent a claim to the Prosecutor General office, and big money was involved in the case. Private Bank in 2014 got refinancing from the National Bank of Ukraine and tens of millions of hryvnias and even $2 billion of dollars was provided in 2014 in order not to collapse, because the bank was in really difficult situation, and this bank shouldn't have been bankrupted because the whole economy of Ukraine would have failed. And then this $2 billion were siphoned away from the bank to the offshore companies in the form of credits, and the Ukrainian companies connected with the they got credits, and the collateral was products that the companies should have bought from an international supplier, money for some machinery, for other different products. And they siphoned the money away to offshores, and offshores didn't supply these products. And the result, by click of fingers, they just siphoned billions out of the bank. So there is evidence of many crimes, and here the activity of officials of the National Bank should be investigated. They should have responded to the situation. And we see money laundering and also abuse of power. And we wrote a claim that was sent from one department of Prosecutor's General Office to the other, and no one saw any evidence of crime. And the price of this case is 1.8 billion. So here there shouldn't be such big packages of documents. We should look through only this case, and we could have found out where this 1.8 billion was siphoned away. So time is up. Thank you. We were reading these documents, and we worked on them. Thank you very much. Till the next time. Goodbye.